Hello everyone, welcome back on channel Procurement by Dinesh Kumar. Our today's video is regarding public procurement preference to make in India order 2017. This is issued by the DPIIT Ministry of Commerce, and this order plays a very important role in public procurement because whatever the public procurement entity is involved in procurement, they have to comply with the provision of this order. From buyer side also and from seller side, this order becomes very important order because there is a very much consideration of local content what will be manufactured in India. So today we thought that we should make a detailed video on this topic, and I hope this video will be very useful for public procurement buyers, the bidders, the tenderers who participate in the bidding in those departments, and for students and the professionals from this field. So this video is going to be a very useful for learning purpose for you all. So let us start this topic. Is regarding the public procurement preference to make in India order 2017. It is revised in 2024. Big changes were done in that year, and in 2025 July another revision is issued. We will discuss all the provisions, and I hope it is going to be a complete overview on this topic for you. Let us start it. So GFR Rule 153 third is related to this public procurement preference to make in India order, and the notification you can see here, it is dated 19 July 2024. So big modification or changes have been done by this notification. It is issued by the DPIIT Ministry of Commerce, Government of India. What is the aim for this order? The aim is to encourage make in India, promote domestic production and employment generation. The local content can be increased through partnership, cooperation with local companies, establishing production units in India or joint venture with Indian supplier, increasing participation of local employees in service and training them. So basically, the focus of this order is to promote domestic industries so that employment generation and better economic opportunities for domestic sellers should be generated by way of the provision of this order. There may be situation that the foreign bidders, they can participate in collaboration or in joint venture with the Indian bidders, or they can do make in India procurement under their technology licensing agreement. All those we will see in details in this order. First, we will understand that what is mean of the local content as per the provision of this order. If we see the definition of local content, the local content is the amount of value added in India which shall, unless otherwise prescribed by the nodal ministry, be the total value of the items procured, excluding the net domestic indirect taxes, minus the value of imported content in the item, including the custom duties, and as a proportion of the total value in percent. So in the shape of formula, if you want to see this local content, the local content is equal to the total value of item procured minus net domestic indirect taxes minus the value of imported item including custom duties, and it is divided by the total value. By this formula, you can see on this slide, you can arrive at a local content calculation. OEM certificate for country of origin may be obtained in case of reseller of imported items. There may be such situations that the reseller is from a foreign country. So the certificate of origin or country of origin may be obtained in case the item is being sold by a reseller. There may be multiple supply items. So weighted average of all those items can be taken by calculating the local content. What is the exclusion from local content? Here, some are the important points based upon which one cannot claim that he has that particular local content in that particular item. So in this slide you can see what are the bases or what are the items on the basis of which one seller or one bidder cannot claim local content. It is a very important slide, so see carefully this. The local content cannot be claimed based upon the profits, warehousing, marketing, logistics, freight, transportation, insurance, installation, commissioning, training, after sale services, annual maintenance contract, either comprehensive or not comprehensive, locally sourced imported item, including tax, license, or royalty paid for technical expertise, costs, etc., which are sourced from the outside India, which is used for reselling the repackaged, refurbished, rebranded imported products. So, for these items, the seller cannot claim that he has done the local value addition. So, as a buyer, when any seller or bidder submits you the local content declaration certificate, just ask from him that he is not claiming the local content based upon these parameters what is showing in this slide. So these all are being taken from the rule position or different circulars, and if some seller is giving that based upon these parameters he is not claiming local content, so that is okay, or as per rule you can go ahead with that. If anyone is mentioning the name of these items as a local content value addition, the buyer should not accept that, because that will be in violation of the rules. Let us see what is next. In the local content, there are three categories defined in this order. One is the class 1 supplier, other is class 2 supplier, and third is non-local supplier. So what are the class 1 supplier? Class 1 supplier are those supplier which are having 50% or more local content in the product they are going to bid or they are going to sell to the buyer. And the class 2 supplier, they are having local content between 20 to 50% in the bid price, bid item. And if there is any supplier who is having less than 20% of the local content, that will be termed as a non-local supplier. And in domestic tender, that non-local supplier is not eligible. Here we will see the bidder eligibility also. In domestic tender, which are up to the value of rupees 200 crore rupees, only class 1 and class 2 suppliers are eligible. And in domestic tenders which are greater than 200 crore rupees, all the three categories, either class 1, class 2 and non-local, these are all eligible. There may be certain situations that when a global tender inquiry is there within this 200 crore rupees, where the enough local supplier don't exist or local content don't exist in the domestic market, so with the approval of the competent authority, you can invite global tender up within this 200 crore rupees, and therein the class 1, class 2 and non-local, all type of these vendors will be eligible. In certain cases it happens that some departments, they what they mention that only non-local vendors are eligible to participate in GT bids, and that is a wrong practice, that is violation of the rule. So in the GT tenders, all the class 1, class 2, which are the domestic bidders, and the foreign bidders, that will be the non-local bidders, they are eligible to participate. In cases of GT greater than 200 crore rupees, all the three categories of bidder are eligible. Just see this sheet carefully to have the idea about this eligibility. This slide is regarding the local content L1 bid. L1 means the lowest bid meeting the specification. And what is the margin of purchase preference? It is 20%. Just keep in your mind. Nodal ministry means the ministry identified with respect to the provision of this order for a particular item. That will be the nodal ministry. Procuring entity can be the ministry department or attached subordinate offices or autonomous body or PSU. Works definition is that as it is as per the GFR rule 130. It includes the turnkey work also. PLI scheme supplier means treated as a class 2 bidders. mandatory sourcing from class 1 supplier where sufficient local content is notified by the nodal ministry for that particular item. In case any particular nodal ministry has notified some particular item that there is a sufficient local content exit for a particular item, in that case it is mandatory to source or to invite tenders from class 1 supplier only, and other class 2 and non-local supplier will not be eligible. What will be the purchase preference given to the bidders? We will see two scenario. One can be divisible quantity and the other can be non-divisible quantity. In first we will take the example of divisible quantity. In case of L1 bid, if it is a class 1 supplier, means the local content he is having 50% or more. So as a buyer you have to award full quantity to that particular bidder. In case the lowest bidder is not a class 1 bidder, then award 50% of quantity to the L1 bidder and invite class 1 bidder within the margin of purchase preference to match the L1 price. There may be scenario that the L1 bidder is not a class 1 bidder, so in that case you have to award 50% quantity to the L1 bidder, and for rest 50% quantity you see that who bidder is falling within the 20% purchase preference margin. Means if somebody quoted rupees 100, so 20% margin if you can give, so the price becomes 120. If any bidder is there within this 120 price and that is a class 1 bidder, then you ask them that he should match the L1 price, and if he agrees to match the price of L1 bid, then the rest 50% quantity you can award to them. In case he denies that he cannot match the L1 price, then the buyer has to see whether there is any other leftover class 1 bidder within this margin of purchase preference. If any one is exit there, then you have to ask them also whether they are ready to match the L1 price. If that bidder says that yes, I am ready to match the L1 price, award the rest 50% quantity to that bidder, else explore for further bidder if anyone class 1 is there. When all the class 1 bidders exhausted and if any quantity is left, so you have to award that quantity to L1 bidder. I hope it is clear. If anyone has any doubt about this, just comment in the comment box. I will explain in more details. There may be scenario that the quantity is not divisible. In those cases, if the L1 bidder is a class 1 bidder, so as a buyer you have to award full contract to them. But in cases when the L1 bidder is not a class 1 bidder, then check with the class 1 bidder within this margin of purchase preference, that is the L1 price plus 20%, and if any bidder accept the L1 price, then you have to award the full contract to that class 1 bidder. If he fails, then keep exploring within class 1 bidder until the quantity is awarded. It means suppose the L1 bidder is 100 rupees, has got 100 rupees, but he is not class 1, but there are other bidders who are class 1 and they have quoted suppose rupees 110. So 110 is falling within this 20% range, and another class 1 bidder is there who is quoting 116 rupees. So there are two class 1 bidders. First you have to ask the bidder who is quoting 110 rupees whether he can meet the L1 price. If he agrees, then award the full contract to him. If he denies, then you ask the bidder who has quoted 116 rupees because he is also class 1. So if he accepts that I can match the L1 price, you have to award that quantity to him. Else if he denies, you need to keep exploring till all the class 1 exhausted, and after that you award the quantity to L1 if they are not matching with the L1 price. I hope this is also clear. For any clarification comment, please mention in the comment box. There are certain exemptions from this local content. For small value purchases like rupees up to rupees 5 lakh, this local content of class 1 class 2 is not to be seen by the buyer. So the value procurement value up to rupees 5 lakh is exempted from this local content. But one should keep in mind that there should not be any splitting of the quantity just to make them below this 5 lakh and to avoid the provision of this local content or this order. Recently, the government of India have taken some initiatives on 8 July 2025, and they have notified for research and development organization that this value of local content exemption is up to rupees 50 lakh. Just see, this is a very good initiative and it is a big value. So government want to give more flexibility in the R&D procurement so that the R&D of the country flourish. That's why they increase this limit. So for R&D organizations, for research and development items, the local content limit is up to rupees 50 lakh. This is the exempted limit. Beyond this 50 lakh rupees, you have to ask for the local content. I would like to mention here that the spare parts and consumable for closed systems, these are also having exclusion from this local content issue, and maintenance contract with OEM, OES, these are also exempted. Just take an example of the printer cartridges. So this is a consumable of a closed system, so it is also having exclusion from the local content and spare part definitely for that particular machine. So these are the exempted. I hope you get a clear idea about the exemptions from local content in this slide. Now we will discuss how the local content verification will be done. Generally, the bidders in the tendering process, what they do, they give self declaration in the bidding about the local content percentage, and they also mention that where they are adding the local content. So in general tenders less than 10 crore rupees, you have to accept the local content declaration from the bidder, which is self declaration by them. While taking this declaration, I would advise you to devise a format wherein you need to mention that the bidder cannot declare the local content based upon the parameters which I shown you in my previous slide, that based upon these items local content cannot be claimed. One more thing you should add there, that this declaration should be given by the authorized personnel of the tendering entity or the bidder or the company, and if the declaration found false later on, the company or the bidder will be responsible for the signature of that particular employee and suitable action can be taken against him as per the provision of the GFR. So this type of details you devise a format there and mention therein. So what will happen? The sellers, when they will give you the local content declaration form, they will be very careful and you will get genuine forms. There will be less chance for cheating. And the buyer is also aware, the staff of buyer is aware that on the basis of what point the local content cannot be declared. This was all about rupees up to rupees 10 crore cases. There may be some scenario that when the procurement value is more than 10 crore rupees, so the certificate from the chartered accountant or the company secretary is required, that what is the local percentage involved in the procurement or whatever he has bid. So in those cases, during the tendering process, the bidder will give self certification, but the certificate will be submitted when the contract is completed and within the agreed time between buyer and seller. If supplier fails to give that particular certificate, a penalty of 10% of the order value will be imposed upon them. But keep in mind that based upon this, you cannot terminate the contract. So there may be situation that a supplier fails to give the certificate. So you cannot terminate the contract. You only can levy a penalty of 10% of the order value in this scenario. The competent authority of the procuring entity will be the competent authority for handling the complaint also. And if anyone want to make a complaint, so he has to submit the required fees, which can be decided by the nodal ministry and procuring entity. And the nodal ministry on random basis may verify the self declaration or the accountant's or auditor certificate. Randomly they can pick and choose and they can verify. If any bidder has given false declaration regarding the local content, that will be termed as a breach of code of integrity in public procurement in terms of GFR rule 175 1IH. So what can happen in this? Debarment can happen up to 2 years, and the rule for debarment is 151.3, GFR rule 151.3. So Bidders are also cautioned that if they will give false declaration, they can be debarred from the process. And the debarred bidder under the provision of this order will not be eligible for preference under this order in any other procuring entity. Just see here that the violation is leading to them only for the not getting the preference in any other procuring entity, but this order don't say that they cannot participate in the bidding process. Means the difference I want to tell you here, that whatever the bidder, if they are debarred under the provision of this order, so they cannot get preference under this order in any other procuring entity, and the debarred bidder list to be displayed on website of that particular entity. This is regarding the tender specification. Sometime regarding the eligibility condition, in case of previous experience, it is mentioned that the buyer should not ask a proof of supply in other country or proof of export. Sometime in such cases, generally some bidder mention that the some buyer mentioned that the bidder should supply so much of orders in that particular country, or whatever the situation may be. But rule says that as a buyer we should not ask the proof of supply in other country or proof of export. Regarding the turnover, production capacity and financial strength also, buyer has to ensure that unreasonable exclusion of class 1 and class 2 supplier who otherwise are eligible beyond what is essential for ensuring quality and credit worthiness of the supplier should not be made a part of the tender specification. Means the government want to give more and more emphasis on the local supplier. So don't put any such condition which is discriminatory or restrictive in nature against the domestic supplier. Regarding the reciprocity clause, reciprocal action against the procuring entity of foreign country who put unreasonable restrictive condition by which our Indian domestic companies are excluded from participating in the bidding process or they are not eligible. So the detail of such procuring entity of that particular country need to be reported to the JAM, CMDC of all the PSC, PSU, state government, central government and other procuring entity, so that they can take suitable action. And such countries procuring entity will not be allowed to participate in Indian domestic tenders or Indian tenders as a reciprocity effect, because they are not allowing Indian companies. And it may be kept in mind that there may be certain items which are allowed by the Ministry of Department. So for those items, this order will not be applicable. What is the meaning of procuring entity here? The same meaning which is defined in the FDI policy of DPIIT. Sometimes it happens in some bid that some buyer they mention the foreign certifications requirement, brand name, make, model, etc. in tender. So this type of situation are restrictive in nature and discriminatory against local supplier. So the rule says, or this order says, that don't put any foreign certifications, brand, make, models, etc. in the tender. But due to some reasons or some technicality or the non-availability of Indian standard, or for any other reason which shall be in written or recordable, you can put the foreign certifications also, but you have to obtain the approval of the secretary of the department or other competent authority. So judiciously use this foreign certifications with the approval competent authority in your tender document. This is also provision that the procuring entity which are having more than 1000 crore rupees procurement yearly, so they need to notify their procurement plan yearly, and for that, for next 5 years, so that the Indian domestic bidder they can get an idea that what are the domestic companies are procuring, domestic buyers are procuring, and they can get ready for that particular item and start bidding in the domestic tendering. So this information will be helpful for the domestic tenders. For that purpose, it is made here. The non-compliance of this order will lead to violation of the order, and from buyer side, the department has to inquire the case, and if any faulty official is found, the responsibility of that official have to be fixed. So these are the very clear instructions. So the officials of that procuring entity try not to violate the order, otherwise the responsibility can be fixed. And all such cases should be reported to the standing committee, wherein the DPIIT secretary is the chairman. Here are some miscellaneous points that nodal ministry can assess the supply base in country for related items. Whatever the nodal ministry related to for related particular item for that ministry, so they are supposed to review time to time and to assess what is the local content or local capacity or local supply base available in India. They can increase the minimum local content percentage also. It is power with the nodal ministry. And if nodal ministry wish, they can give a special exemption to the suppliers making products in India under a licensing scheme or technology collaboration agreement. Means the foreign company is making items in India in collaboration with the Indian government. So in such situations, for such bidders or such joint ventures, the suitable exemptions should be given by the nodal ministry. And in case of any substantial procurement quantity is there where the nodal ministry has not notified the local content, the nodal ministry need to notify the upper threshold value of the procurement beyond which the joint venture with Indian companies are only eligible to participate in the bidding company. So that particular threshold value, suppose 5,000 crore rupees cases are there. So beyond 5,000 crore rupees procurement for that particular item or entity, the sellers should enter into joint venture with the Indian company, and the nodal ministry can provide special exemptions to them. The minister in charge of that particular department or organization or procuring entity, by written order of his or her and citing reasons therein, can reduce the minimum local content and can reduce the margin of purchase preference also, and it can exempt any particular item or supplier from this order. So this only happens when there is not sufficient local supply exit in India. Where the sufficient local content is exit, such type of exemption should not be given. Ministry or department to issue instruction for policy direction to the government entities not covered by GFR. There are certain government entities like PSUs, state government, etc., which are not governed by the GFR. So, ministry or departments are supposed to issue policy directions to them so that they can comply to these PPP MIA orders as a policy matter. What is a standing committee? As I discussed in my previous slide, there are five members therein. The secretary DPIIT will be chairman, secretary commerce will be member, secretary MIT will be member, joint secretary public procurement, Ministry of Finance DOE will be member, and joint secretary DPI will be member convener. And if required, they can ask any technical member to be co-opted by the committee for their technical advice. And the secretary concerned whose department case is under consideration will be the additional member for that particular cases.